Hello, and welcome to today's Your Author program. My name is Jennifer Duarte, Children's Librarian at the Benjamin Franklin Branch, and today I'm here with my colleague, Graciela Gallegos. She is the Children's Librarian at the Children's Services Department of the Los Angeles Public Library.
Hello, all. It is our pleasure today to host Your Author series today. Please feel free to use the chat box to communicate your thoughts, comments, and questions with us at any time. Also, make sure that you email the ecdept@lapl.org to be entered for an opportunity, and you'll see it scrolling at the bottom, for an opportunity to win the book that we're going to be talking about today. And it's Jose Ramirez's book, Quinto's Neighborhood, El Vecindario de Quinto.
Artist and teacher Jose Ramirez will be discussing his illustrated bilingual book, Quinito's Neighborhood, El Vecindario de Quinito. Jose's work has been featured in local artwork places such as Homegirl Cafe, Avenue 50 Gallery, and our very own library summer reading pages. Jose actually created the artwork for our 2021 Summer Reading Challenge. His work has also been featured in the Mexican Cultural Institute in Washington, D.C., and in the popular TV show, The Good Wife. Jose has actually, aside from all those wonderful things, he's actually also a teacher for LAUSD and has been teaching for over 23 years and is currently a third grade teacher at Esperanza Elementary.
We want to thank our generous donors, the Lenore S. and Bernard A. Greenberg Fund and the Library Foundation for helping fund the library bring these amazing author and illustrator programs to all of you. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting children's author and illustrator, Jose Ramirez.
Jose!
Hello!
Hi.
Hi.
We're so happy to have you.
Yes, we are. Jose, thank you so much for taking the time for being here with us today. It's such a delight and pleasure to know that you're an artist, illustrator, teacher, so many things. And you'll be talking to us about your creative process and just the way that you brought the illustrations to life in the book, Quinito's Neighborhood, El Vecindario de Quinito. So how about we get started with a few questions? And with that, the very first question we'd like to know is what allowed you to get the book illustrated, and what was that process like?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Steve, if you can please go to slide number 1. Thank you. So the process of getting to do a children's book was, although it seemed kind of quick and turnaround was short, it took a long time, right? It's not like you get asked right away to do a children's book once you become an artist. You kind of put yourself out there and you create artwork and you create a name for yourself, and then you can kind of maybe get the opportunity to shop yourself around and see if you can find a book. I was lucky in that a long time ago, I had started doing paintings like 25 years ago now. Back in 1993, I came back to Los Angeles after getting my master's degree at Berkeley, and I started painting and teaching for LA Unified. The paintings that I did a long time ago, I would show in local coffee shops and sometimes galleries and different places around LA. So I got my name out, and it was a little while after I came back to LA that I got an opportunity to do my first mural. If you can go to the next slide, please. And opportunities like getting to do murals gets your work out, and you get more exposure, and people get to see your work, and it also makes you a better artist, right? You get feedback, and you get to reflect on your work, and you figure out ways to get better. Can you please go to the next slide? And so I got opportunities to do murals at Homeboy Industries. Was my first mural. I also got to do a mural at my first elementary school that I taught at. I did 2 murals at Ascot Avenue Elementary. One of them was of Angela Davis here. I did it with my brother, who's standing on the left, Omar, who is also still an artist. Please go to the next slide. And I also got to do some murals at Dolores Mission. And the murals at Dolores Mission are still up there in the parking lot. I did a total of about five murals there. Some of them with my brother Omar as well. We were working together a lot back in the mid to late 90s here in LA. And then he went to New York and I kept working here in LA. Please go to the next slide. And I kept working as a school teacher as well. So after a few years of teaching at Ascot Avenue Elementary in South Central Los Angeles, I started teaching at Esperanza Elementary in 1999 and came in. And although I didn't know a lot about teaching curriculum, I knew a lot about teaching art, and we did a lot of art every day. Please go to the next slide. And after a while, I got the opportunity to do my first children's book. On the left, you'll see the title, Un Nuevo Sol, A New Sun. In 2001, I was approached by the author and the publisher of a new press called Children's Book Press, Latino Literacy Press, here in Los Angeles. And they asked me if I could do the illustrations for their first children's book, which was based on a poem by Max Benavides. It's a story of being new in a new place. And it gave me complete artistic freedom, and I created this book that got a lot of exposure back then. It was not a mass-produced book. It wasn't a big publisher, but it did get exposure in Los Angeles and places where they would use the book to teach curriculum. But having this first book, this is where like things kind of started to move towards the publishing world for me, because I had this book, and even though it wasn't published by a big publisher, I had it and I could show it to people. So I had the opportunity to go to the Los Angeles Book Festival, and I gave a copy to some different publishers, one of which was the publisher at Children's Book Press. And so I gave the editor a book, and I didn't hear anything from her for a few years, but in 2004, I heard from them, and they asked me if I could illustrate a book. And I jumped at the opportunity, and that's when I got the opportunity to illustrate Quinito's Neighborhood. And so from there, it was just a matter of, doing a contract and making sure that the contract made sense. And so for being a young artist and not knowing as much, it was like figuring out if the contract was something that was in my favor. And since they were a small publisher and they were really interested in being community oriented and working with artists, I felt it was a fair contract. And so then from there, I got the story, and I didn't meet the author. I just got the story, and I developed some sketches, and I worked with the editor and their art director, and I got feedback. And I'll talk about the process of creating the book in a minute. But after I developed the sketches and submitted them and turned them in, I got to do the final, the paintings, and then got feedback on the paintings, and then finished the paintings. And then they went into production of the book, which took about a year.
That's so interesting.
Yes, it's so interesting, right? Graciela?
Yes.
The whole process.
Yeah, and since you're talking about Quinito's Neighborhood, were there, and we both read it and loved the book. I really love the colors that you use. Are there any parts of this book that are your favorite or special to you? And if possible, are there any visuals associated with the book that you can share with us? Most
definitely, yes. I felt like getting to do the book, once I read the story and I knew it was about a kid walking through his neighborhood, and in this neighborhood, it really emphasized the diversity of Los Angeles. And that, even though it wasn't based in LA, I kind of like framed it so that it would be based on the neighborhood of where I teach in Pico Union, Esperanza Elementary. So if you can please go to the next slide. And you'll see what I was talking about. So I submitted some sketches. And this was maybe the second round of sketches that I had done, and then got feedback for them. And so this would be a page that would be kind of like, so this one is a little bit on the long side. If you can take it out so I can show the whole picture. So if you look here, it's like for a full, a 2-page bleed, right? So I had to do the sketches this way. In this book, there was most of the book was more of a horizontally based book, so I had to do long horizontal or landscape paintings. Go ahead and go back to the slides. If you can go to the next one. Here's another one. This one was kind of modeled after my mom, who was worked in costura and still does. And I did the sketch, and of course, as you can see, why is there this blank space, right? Well, the blank space was there for the words, and they let me know what the words were and how they kind of figured they were going to place them, even though they hadn't figured out the font. They kind of let me know where they wanted the words, so I left open spaces for them. If you can go back to the previous page, Steve, real quick. You'll see that the space for the text was at the bottom of this page. If you can go ahead and go to the next one. And so what I want to do, go back one, please. And just to give you all an idea, let me go ahead and show my whole studio now. I want to show what the actual painting, this is the original of the book, right?
Wow.
You'll see that we had to do marks. I had to mark my canvas and do a bunch of special markings so that I knew how far I needed to go, what the bleed would be. And, then I had to take some high quality pictures. I think I sent them over to the publisher so that they could do the pictures at that point. And then it was out of my hands at that point. If we can go back to the slides and then go to the next slide. I really enjoyed doing this one as well, the image of the dentist. His Quinito is in all the pictures, and because he's walking in the neighborhood, and it's kind of geared towards a kindergarten and first grade level. And I thought it was really cool how the writer and the publisher was really mindful of the themes in the book, right? The theme of community, the theme of celebrating diversity, the themes of showing a neighborhood that might not be in the spotlight. I thought that was an important part, and that's why I was so excited to get to do this book.
And also breaking stereotypes, because you see them doing, the truck driver is the female, and you see
grandmother.
So I love that. I thought that was way ahead of its time, Jose.
Yeah, that was one of the things I noticed the most too about the gender stereotypes.
Yes.
And I really appreciate that you showed us your canvas, because I never really thought about leaving space for the words. And it makes sense, because you don't want them to interfere with the art and vice versa. So that's great. Thank you.
Right. I always thought it was they just put in the words wherever there was, a little bit of space. But it's actually the other way around. Well, thank you so much. Okay, so now, if you could just walk us through how you create your visual narratives and characters. Are they a reflection of your surroundings, your environment? And I guess that leads into how you created and were inspired for the 2021 illustrations you made for our summer reading challenge.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that question. So I think like an author, an artist, or an artist is going to develop a vocabulary and characters that we kind of go back to a lot. So for me, like the characters could be the students that I work with, my family, my children, and the setting would be Los Angeles, the gardens, my classroom, and the places that I visit on a daily basis. So I wanted to make sure, if you can go to the next set of slides, please, that for the image that I was creating for the library, it would reflect community, but it would also reflect some things that I think are important in our city now, like emphasizing green spaces and emphasizing respect for nature and habitats, and emphasizing the importance of children reading and education and art and music and everything that makes Los Angeles a beautiful place to live in. So as I was developing the sketches, the drawings, can you go to the next picture, please? Of course, I had to do a drawing for it and present it to the library committee and get some feedback. And I always love doing the drawings and get a lot of the ideas out. And then after we got the drawing approved, I started doing the painting. If you can go to the next slide, please. And so my process, in order for me to kind of work with the colorful palette, I kind of go back to creating a really bright red underpainting. Yeah. My first levels are like the bottom section here. There's always a red underpainting. And as I start, so it starts off purple and blue, and then I go with my reds, and I develop different levels of red or different shades of red. So I have like a more intense red and a red that kind of recedes, and then after that I go in with some of my other colors on top. So you can see like where the plants are and the people, they're still not all developed, but there's a lot of red. And if you look at my paintings in person or up close, you'll see that you can still see some of the red, you can still see blue, you can still see purple amongst the greens and the oranges and the light greens and stuff. So that's what kind of helps present them as very colorful. And colors that are near each other are kind of like opposite colors. And the purples, there's no black in my paintings. There's all of the dark lines are purple, just a lot of levels of purple. And so the purple helps differentiate and kind of create more contrast and stuff. If you can go to the next picture, please. So in the process, I kind of developed a few different sketches. This was one of my proposals or one of my ideas, or just a way to kind of like get warmed up before I developed the final image, which I knew would be more of an outdoor image that would include references to green in LA.
I definitely I personally love the illustrations, and all of the colleagues, librarian colleagues, we love it. And we've had nothing but just positive remarks on these illustrations, Jose. So congratulations on this beautiful artwork.
Thank you.
I do love the colors. We've kind of gotten a hint of your workspace behind you. I'm assuming that's your studio.
Yeah.
Can you share with us some more information about your workspace, and what do you think makes your space unique? Is there anything that you must have, like a certain palette, a certain coffee, in order for you to work?
Well, yeah, if you can go ahead and just show my background here and in the studio. I do I like to kind of be organized before I begin. I know right now I haven't been as organized because I've been finishing off my school year as a third grade teacher, but I do like to have an organized space. I do like to work on a few paintings at the same time. So every time I'm working, I have something that might be almost finished, like the painting up above, which I started last year, a painting like towards over here that is still in process of being painted. It has a background, but I haven't painted anything on it. So I'm very grateful that my studio is in my house. It's underneath in the basement, and it's the size of our house. It's a pretty large studio with two spaces, one space for me to work large scale, and one space to work on everyday paintings where I'm working on a lot. And in the process, I get all my work. So here's a painting that I recently completed called Los Jardineros in Los Angeles.
Beautiful.
And, a painting that kind of, I did it this year, and even though I did Quinito a long time ago, I wanted to kind of go back to the theme. So here's another painting that is a new painting, and this is called Walking on Stolen Land. And this is another one with the mother and the child walking, and then this one is during COVID times. But I'm really grateful to have my studio space here, and I work on the wall, and I always have to either listen to music or have the background noise of a TV show going on while I have. Sometimes my daughter will come down and work with me, and it's a great space. I'm really grateful that I have it. And down below, I have another large space where I have 11-foot high ceilings where I can do some larger scale pieces. If you saw my show at the library 2 years ago, I got to show some of those paintings.
What kind of music do you like to have playing? Is there anything, or just background noise going on?
No, I like jazz. I like hip hop, rock, anything. And then TV shows like documentaries or like comedies. Stand up is easy to listen to because I don't have to worry about watching it. I'm just listening to it. So sometimes if it's got captions or if it's in a foreign language, I can't do it because I have to be focused on the visual image.
Makes sense. We like getting a sneak peek at the art that you're working on right now or finishing up.
Yes, and the colors look amazing. I can only imagine in person how bright they are. I mean, coming through, we could see just all the beautiful tones, and they're just so beautiful. And so I also wanted to mention that it seems like you have no shortage of inspiration because, I mean, obviously you have third grade classroom, your own kids. That's just wonderful, and it shows through your artwork. So thank you so much. Okay. So the next question is, how did, our recent experience with quarantine, how did that change your art or your work habits, your drawing habits, if any?
Well, it was like the stress of COVID and everybody's uncertainty with how things were going to happen. I was really glad that I had the tool of art to create. Right, it was great to be able to do that. It was great to be able to teach with my students on Zoom. That really changed my life as well. Back in March when we started, it was hard to get students into the Zoom rooms, but by August, I was able to get everybody into the Zoom room. And one thing that I got to do, if you can go to the next slide, please, was that really changed everything for me as far as how to reach my students through Zoom, was to get to do drawings with them every day. So every day we started the class with a drawing, and I would guide the class. I would project my blank sketchbook. I sent all my students a sketchbook and pencils and some some drawing pencils, coloring pencils, and we would start off with music and a blank canvas, and we would draw, and I would just hear them talk and share their ideas and become friends and see their artwork develop. So every day was about a different theme. These are some of the more later drawings that we did within the last month or so, but the one on the left is a beautiful drawing of a dinner table, and it has the food and the scenes in their house of what happens at the dinner table, right? So I did my dinner table, but everybody kind of followed it, but they got to do their own. On the right side is paying respect to the people who bring us food. And I also really, really wanted to get my students to become great artists. And so right at the very beginning, we started drawing perspective and learning about artists, and sometimes copying other artists, and other times just kind of doing something, whatever it was that we were going to be studying is what we did. So there was an episode, this one on the right of the cocineros, the cooks, was inspired by City of Ghosts, the animated series. We were watching the first episode about Boyle Heights, and I had previewed it, and I knew that we were going to do something with it, and I wanted to do something of the inside of a kitchen, because it's an incredible space, an incredible workspace, and the perspective and everything. So this was a student's interpretation of what we drew it that day. And please go to the next slide. And this one on the left was just a couple of days ago. We read the book. We did a read aloud. Actually, we had the author of Punk Farm. We found a video that he did of him reading his book aloud. And if you've ever read that book, it's an awesome book. And so this is a student's drawing of that book. And on the right, inspired by Quinito's neighborhood, they visit a panaderia that's run by two Manuel. Let me go in here. Let me read you the page. My neighbors, Rafi and Luis Manuel, go to work very early. Rafi bakes the bread and Luis Manuel sells it. If you can show my screen real quick, I'll show you this is the drawing that I did for Quinito's neighborhood that inspired the drawing that we did with my Zoom class. If you can go back to the drawings, please. But I was just amazed, and they added their own ideas to the bread that should be sold at the panaderia. But their concept of perspective is beautiful and inspiring. And if you can go to the next one. Today, this was our last drawing of the year, and I had been promoting the event to my students and making sure that they're here. I know that some of them are here. I'm reading their comments. Yes. Today we drew I think you guys all know, but in case you don't, this is the children's library at the Los Angeles Public Library, and this person is actually the person that works there. I met her, and she's awesome, and she's so helpful. She was there when I took my students there a couple years ago. Go to the next one, please. And this is my students' slides, and these are my students' picture drawings of the library. So usually I would have them submitted through our platform, but today I just took a quick screenshot, and I got a lot of participation. And like I said at the beginning, the conversations were always amazing, and something that kept me sane during the quarantine, to be connected with my students through art and through Zoom on a daily basis.
Yes, I think there's so much to be said for art as a form of therapeutic activities, right? And the fact that your students get to do this so often is just wonderful.
Yeah, after a whole school year of drawing every day, we all had like 2 sketchbooks full of drawings, and a lot of them were our ideas for paintings that I'll be doing during the summer.
A whole portfolio, right?
Yeah.
They've had.
What's so great too is that you've mentioned it's therapeutic for you, but I'm assuming it was wonderful therapy for the kids too, especially because some kids need that guidance and they're not always lucky enough to think that they can be artists, but you help them like discover that within themselves too.
Yeah, it was so cool because after like the first 5 or 10 minutes, everybody show your drawing, and then just everybody comments and says how beautiful it is, and then we draw a little bit more, and then another 10 minutes pass. Everybody show your drawings, and then everybody gets to see how they're evolving. And after a year of doing that, I really saw some amazing artists develop, and it's evident in the work that they created.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I know you mentioned your students. You mentioned your daughter earlier. Also, is there someone you think about when you draw, or do you draw for like a specific target audience, for a specific person, or does it just depend on what you're working on?
I think it's always like my immediate surroundings. So whether it's my family or my students or my garden or Los Angeles or like the experiences that we go through, it's always reflected in there. If you can go to the next slide, please. But definitely something that is always in my mind is why are we creating art, right? So this is something that we created in the classroom 2 or 3 years ago when we were in class, and we were teaching a theme on art is universal, right? That art. And so the question that I posed, and I got feedback from, what is the role of an artist in society? And so these were some that I found today as I was putting together my slideshow. And a role of an artist is to connect with the society, to connect the society with art. Yandi said, I think art is never going to end, which is pretty deep. And then art is your feelings. And then I think art means to bring people together and make people work together. And that was our experience when we were doing the unit. The students got to read together, to talk about art, to create art, and to learn about different artists that were important in art, in the world of art. So if you can go to the next slide. In this one here, these are some pictures of some art that has been created by my students throughout, right? So whether we're doing a clay pinch pot or a mask, or we're drawing with paint or charcoal or crayons and markers, it's always to reflect who they are and to give them voice and to validate who they are. And so when I see students create artwork, it inspires me, and me making artwork is a way to also document what is around me and stuff. So like, for example, on the top left one, it's very evident, right? It says, in the delivery room when her little sister was born, and how happy she was. To the right, when my brother cut my finger.
Siblings.
And they had to go to the hospital, and here she is running down the stairs. It's beautiful. Yeah. And then this drawing over here on the bottom left is pastel drawings, self-portraits. Mm-hmm. They all did their own, but then we put them together into one large piece.
Wow.
And my students in the bottom right creating a painting, glazing their pinch pots. Go to the next slide, please. And here's some other ones that go a little bit further back. Like I always go back to this one on the top. The drawing, the painting assignment was to create a painting of something they would never forget. And so this assignment brought a lot of beautiful drawings, but this one really hit because it's about, as you can see, it's his memories of coming to this country and crossing, and the helicopters and the police, the migra, and everything for him to get to Esperanza, to Pico Union, and to live in one of those apartments, El Presidente. And then you go down to the bottom right hand. That was the prompt was to do a painting of the inside of their house. And so this is a part of history now because it was drawn in 1999, I think, or 2000, and it shows the inside of an apartment in Pico Union, and it says a lot about how our students live. And then, of course, the one on the left, the piñata. Yeah. So I think like my life as a teacher is definitely reflected in my art and like in my style as well. It's a simple style. It's a style that is easy to understand, and but there's always like a little undertow or a little statement about something, so that you might be attracted by the colors, but hopefully you'll also take away a message or something about history that we might have not known, or community that might not be we might not know very much about it, or we might know only the bad things about it, or we might only hear bad things about it.
Yes, like you said, the colors kind of draw us in, but once you start looking at everything closely, there's just so much detail there.
Definitely.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. And the oil pastels, I have to say, your third grade students are very lucky because I don't think I used oil pastels until maybe my first year of college. So I think that's amazing. And the experience of using artist tools and supplies, I think that's important too, to show that they're not just for the elite or for, for a particular group of people. It's for anyone and everyone that wants to express themselves artistically. So yes,
definitely it's kind of a messy process, and we got to make sure that they don't lose their face and stuff. And also the clay, right? A lot of students don't get the opportunity to play with clay, and like even though I had the idea, we need to create or produce something, for them the process was equally important, and just to have their hands in the clay, and they worked the clay so much that it fell apart at the very end, and they didn't have a pinch pot because they had just been touching it so much and all the water had evaporated. But
yeah, definitely. I think it's just really great to hear. And so, Jose, can you tell us about your next project, or what you would like for your next project to be?
Well, I'm just good for this. For me, for the next project, I don't really have anything set in stone right now, other than just to keep doing the paintings that I do. And so I'm always open, and things come up. I'm very lucky about that. So I'm just going to keep doing my paintings. But I did finish a couple projects that I wanted to share with you all. If you can go to the next slide, please. And in this next slide, I got the opportunity to illustrate one page of a book that was written by Aida Salazar, who's a very important author, who is originally from Los Angeles, but she lives in the Bay Area now. She's written a few books, and I got to do one page of a person who is a hero, right? An important person in the history of Los Angeles. Her name is Gutierrez, and Juana Gutierrez, and she was a person who fought, as you can see in the illustration, right? And you can see in the words, she fought against pollution and factories that were in East LA. She headed an organization called Mothers of East LA, and which was based out of Dolores Mission. And if you remember one of the first slides that I showed you of one of my murals, it's an interesting story. But Steve, if you can go to slide number 1, 2, 3, 4 in the first series. The Mothers of East LA. No, go to the next one. Sorry, it would be slide number 5. Go back.
There.
Yes, over here on the right is a mural. Well, I'll go from the left. It's the Virgen de Guadalupe, and then in the middle it's a Nacimiento, and then on the right it's a painting or a mural that I did with my brother of the Mothers of East LA, or Mujeres en Movimiento, which was an organization that I believe came out of Dolores Mission. Dolores Mission is where these murals are painted. Dolores Mission is a Jesuit church in Pico Aliso, which is in Boyle Heights in East LA. So go ahead and go back to that slide. That was one project that I recently did. I did it about a year ago, but the book won't be out for another few months. It's scheduled to be coming out, I think, this year, but maybe next year. And it's just one out of many. But as you can see, again, the process of creating a painting and making sure that you leave text. If you can go to the next page, please. And this is a painting that I did last year as well, but it's going to be coming out. Well, it's a commission that I got to do a painting for Plaza Community Services, an organization that is centered towards children, and it's been around for a long time. It's actually a very old organization in Los Angeles. So they provide childcare and services for children, and so I got asked to do a painting to help them show their vision and everything. So I got to do a lot of different things in this painting, like a preschool and school, a gardening scene, students creating music and reading books, and their parents bringing them to the program. So those are 2 projects that I recently completed.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing. Yes, it's always busy, especially being a full-time teacher and working on these kinds of projects. So, yeah, definitely.
Are there any words of wisdom you can offer, like maybe your students who are thinking about going into becoming professional artists, or just kids who are, they're aspiring artists? Any words you can offer to them?
Yes, if you can go to the next slide, please. So I think like my comment, my idea would be to say that it's important to give children voice and to validate, like I said earlier. Here we are at the library, an exhibit that I had a couple years ago, and I got to bring my students, and a student is pointing at himself in the painting. And so it's nice to be able to have these opportunities, but to also, going back to your question, I think it's important that we listen to students and we give them voice. We encourage them to create and to be storytellers, and to tell them that they're the future, right? That without them having a vision of what the future could be, they always have visions, and they are able to create and put out ideas that are valid and important for us. And so if you can go to the next one, and that there's adults and teachers and people in their lives who are willing to help them along the way. Their parents, first and foremost, of course, their teachers, their librarians, and the people who take them to school, the bus drivers, and everybody else that is in the story of Quinito's neighborhood.
That's so beautiful. I really like the fact too that you encourage them to embrace like their experiences. So like when you showed the picture of them doing the crossing or how they live, it's like, that's your reality, that's their experience, and you're teaching them to embrace that, and that's great.
Mm-hmm. And I just certainly have to go back to your illustrations as well, Jose. I think this is a snapshot of any urban community in Los Angeles. I see this. I could see Pico Union. I see Boyle Heights. I see all these communities, and it's beautiful. It represents Los Angeles beautifully. So thank you so much. And so with that, we are going to take some audience questions.
I think I had seen one. Oh, there you go. That's the one I was going to pick. Have you had students come back to visit who have chosen art as a career?
Yes and no. I've had students come back or find me on my email me or find me on social media and say that I was their teacher a long time ago. It's funny that question came up today, because today was our 5th grade culmination, and as we watched it in our classroom, one of the things that was presented during the Zoom slideshow was every student got to talk about what they wanted, something that they remember about Esperanza and something that they want to do in the future. And so most of the students said that something that they remembered was getting to do art at Esperanza. Or if they didn't say that, what they want to do when they get older is that they want to be artists. And so I think it's important for us as adults in their lives to let them know that there's a lot of different careers that they could pursue in the art world. It doesn't just have to be as a painter or an artist or an illustrator. There's a lot of different opportunities and ways to be a visual artist or a writer or somebody creative. And so it doesn't have to be a painter who sells their paintings, but that as parents, to support that, it's important to have parents that are supportive of you wanting to be an artist, and not to say, oh, you're not going to make any money. There's a lot of opportunities in art.
Right. And that you teach them to design creative process, because even things like engineering, architecture, all those things have a process where, where there has to be steps, right,
Yeah.
taken. So I think it's great. It's great. So Estelita Sebastian asked, have your students drawn any kind of different art?
Maybe different techniques or different types of art?
Well, I think this year it was mostly just doing drawing with pencils and trying to do portray realistically, or like to do perspective and stuff. But in other years, when we have more materials at our disposal, like when we're in the classroom, I definitely try to have them learn about different artists. So if we're learning about Basquiat, we might do something more abstract. If we're learning about other artists, we might do surrealism or like collage or markers. And so we do try to do different mediums and different styles of art. But this year was hard because we didn't have access to a lot of materials. But when we go back into the classroom and we have our classrooms are very well stocked with different art materials like clay and stuff, then we can do that for sure.
That's great.
Ana Avalos wants to know, she actually has a comment, beautiful work. And she wants to know, are the library illustrations, are the prints going to be available for purchase?
I am not sure, but if you go to my website, you'll see that there's a lot of other prints that are in there, and some of them might be close to what you're looking for. But right now, we haven't done anything like that.
All right.
I think.
Okay, I know who this is, and Jaden. Yes, I do love my students a lot. They're awesome and they're incredible. And even though you've been kind of trying to be funny on the chat section, I really appreciate you. Like I told you earlier today, you made every day incredible for me. All of you, all of my students that are here today, but especially you, Jaden, with all of your questions and comments. And yes, so I will let you know that yes, Bruce Wayne, you were incredible.
Susan F. would like to say beautiful colors, and she loves the patterns in your art. Some of your works look like mosaics. Have you ever made a mosaic?
I haven't made a mosaic, but I have done tile work. So in my tiles, I've done a little bit of mosaic, but I've thought of it in that way. And a lot of people have said that about my work as well. Yeah. Hey Jake, my book, they're all released right now. Right now, there's none of them that haven't been released, except for the one that I showed one image of that was written by Aida Salazar, In the Spirit of the Dream. That one will be released in about a year or so. But I only have one painting in that one. It's a great book. So.
Let's see. It's great to see some of your students popping up and they say they love you or they love you.
Oh, to be a third grader again, right?
I was about to send his mom a message and say, hey, talk to your son real quick.
You have her on speed dial, huh?
You are always the teacher, right? Like.
Hi, Noemi. You're a great artist. I remember you from 2 years. I think you might have culminated this year, and you're going to go to middle school now, right? But I always thought you did beautiful drawings. And I remember the drawings that you did. I'll never forget them. They're beautiful. You did drawings of Lilo and Stitch in the classroom. They were really cool.
Great. Okay, let's see. There are any other questions or comments? Well, I mean, we've been getting some amazing questions and comments. So, Graciela.
Oh, wait, one more. It says, which are your favorite musicians to listen to? Let me see if I can show it.
Yes. Well, every day when we would draw with the students in the class, it was usually jazz because it's music, it's instrumental. There's no vocal stuff, and it's great background music, but also really beautiful to listen to. So that's one. So Coltrane and Miles Davis and a lot of hip hop as well, older hip hop from the 90s and stuff as well. It's stuff that I love to listen to. And nice to see that you're here, Miss Patillo. She's our music teacher.
Oh, no wonder.
Good night.
Oh, I like that question.
Tito 57 says, what do you say to students who think they can't draw?
Well, I always start off by telling them that everybody's drawings are beautiful, and after doing it and emphasizing parts that are really nice in their drawings and saying how everybody draws differently are things that encourage students to come out of their shells, because a lot of students do say that. In third grade, not so much. As they get older, maybe by the time they get to fifth grade, students might say, "Hey, I'm not a good artist. I don't like to draw," because they're set on what a good artist or what a good art piece looks like. But I think in third grade they're still really open and they still take a lot of chances, and they're ready, they're willing to understand that their artwork is awesome. So if there were students that were saying that they don't think that their art is good and they're older, then maybe showing them art that doesn't stay within the lines or doesn't follow the rules or is beautiful because it might not be what you think of as being beautiful, but it's still beautiful. And so that's important, is to show them other artists that are doing things that other people might have not thought are beautiful, but we know are beautiful.
Right. That's great. Do we have any more questions? I think we're almost going to be finishing up. We just had a couple of just for fun kind of things, just to learn a little bit more about you. We call it this or that. So I'll just give you an options. And then, so are you a more chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Chocolate. Agreed. Traditional or digital books?
Traditional.
Agreed also.
Yeah.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Summer or winter?
Oh, winter. For sure.
And then let me see, pasta or pizza?
Pasta.
Fruits or vegetables?
Fruits.
Wow. Baseball or basketball?
Baseball.
And then Diane came up with tacos or burritos?
Burritos.
Oh. Although it's all good, right?
It's all delicious. Yeah, I think, let me see. I'm trying to see if there's any more questions that might have popped up. Oh, there you go.
Jake wants to know, why do you like art so much and how did you get inspired?
Okay, Jake. I like art because it's a fun way to spend time and the process. So there's a difference between what you make, but while you're making it, right? So while you're making it is just as important as what you make. So I have a lot of fun while I'm making it, and it helps me think about a lot of things and how to straighten things out in my life. And so that's one of the reasons why. And what got me inspired was people like my teachers when I was a little kid who said, "Hey, I like your art. You do good artwork." And people who encourage you along the way. And also seeing other paintings that inspired me, or saying, "Wow, that's a beautiful painting. And I like the idea. I'm going to go home and I'm going to draw it." So whether you're learning a song by your favorite guitarist or musician, or you're learning to write like your favorite poet or writer, it's always, we get inspired by people who came before us, people who were artists or musicians or writers before us, that make us want to pick up the pen, and also our life, right? Being able to go through the process of creating art. And spending the time doing that, because it's definitely a fun, for some people, for me, it's fun, right? For other people, it might be picking up a basketball or riding a bike or writing a poem or cooking something, right? And they're all beautiful things to do that help us pass the time and do creative things to create rather than destroy.
Sounds great. Oh, one more came in. What is your favorite book?
Well, it depends. I do like House on Mango Street. It always makes me cry. And also I like Sideways Stories from Wayside School. I like to read that book for my students.
Yes.
Yeah, those two I think I really like. I mean, I've been getting into history books as well, but those I like those. And I love cookbooks. Yeah.
So if you were to begin a painting today, what would it be?
I don't know. It would have to be something about my garden, like something over here that I'm working on. And so I been able to kind of like move my style along, and I want to explore that a little bit more, where there's a lot of loose stuff, but there's also a lot of tight things around it. So that's what I'm going to get to do during the break. And also some of the sketches that I did with my students, like the painting, the drawings of the cocineros, or the drawings of the muralist, or the drawings of the doctor. We did a bunch of drawings of different people doing things in the city. I'm going to try to do some of those as paintings as well.
See any more? I think somebody wanted to know about your favorite color.
My favorite color is red and black. Red. And yes, I see another question here. My favorite color, yes. And I think she had also asked, that's another one of my students, and I showed one of her drawings. Her name is Sherlyn. She asked a question earlier that I passed up. Why did you want to be an artist? I don't know. I didn't think I was going to be. All my life, I grew up thinking I wanted to be an architect or somebody who built houses, but I really liked the drawing part of it and adding color. And as I got better at it and I learned more, like by working with my brother and like by learning from other people, I just wanted to keep getting better at it. And I still want to keep getting better at it. So, and then am I going to have an open studio this summer? I'm hoping to. At least something, maybe a garden tour and maybe something with my art. But thank you for asking, Janet. And you're an awesome docent, and you were an educator for LA Unified a long time. And I love taking my students to the Getty Museum because you have given us great tours. Thank you.
I love the connections you have with the community and with, different partnerships. So that's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
I think that might be it. Let me just double check anything. Well, this has been so much fun. I don't know, Jen.
I had so much fun
Yes.
getting to know Jose, and with all the comments, I could see that he's so well loved, and I think, of course, for all of you that have not already done so, please sign up for the summer reading program. It is open to all ages, all over the city of Los Angeles, our beautiful city. So please join it, and you get a prize.
And make sure you have submitted your request for your free copy of Quinito's Neighborhood. There goes the email address. Then go ahead and just email us there, and we'll send you your free copy of the book. So thank you all for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this conversation with the illustrator Jose Ramirez. And hopefully you'll return next Friday. And every Friday during the summer, we're going to keep having these author programs. Our next author will be Friday, June 18th at the same time, and it will be Ryan La Sala. He is a young adult or teen author, and we'll be talking about his book, Bedazzled. Ryan's books have been recognized by Tor.com, NPR, Entertainment Weekly, among other publications. He has been featured on podcasts such as Write or Die, The Wrong Cat Died, and The First Draft, talking about anything and everything, ranging from his writing career to the musical Cats. Ryan currently lives in a creaky apartment in New York City, filled with craft supplies and costumes, but only takes up the corporal form to watch Sailor Moon and attend brunch. Sounds interesting. Those attending the virtual program will have an opportunity to win his book also. And again, go ahead and submit your request so you can get a free copy of the book that we talked about today. And thank you all for attending our virtual Your Author program, and we'll hopefully see you next week. Thank you to Mr. Ramirez's students too.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.